Today we're diving into the world of VR and we're taking a look at the roguelike adventure game, The Light Brigade. This game's been out for a little while now. We haven't got a chance to check it out, but we're finally jumping in after a whole series of updates that the game has received. And honestly, this game has been getting a lot of good press even since the release, some heralding it as maybe one of the best VR games out there. I mean, that's a pretty big statement to say. There's some awesome games out there, but honestly, by the looks of this one, it definitely looked like it has a chance. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the video, I just want to let you know, out of 10, I'm giving this one an 8.5. And I'm going to use the rest of this video to convince you as to why it deserves such a high score. Let's dive right into it. Light Brigade is a thrilling journey into a hellish fantasy world filled with demon-eyed, Nazi-adjacent enemies that you're gonna love to hate. While the story may not be the main focus of this game, the action-packed gameplay more than makes up for it. As you progress through this roguelike game, you're going to find yourself immersed in a world of World War II era weaponry, each with its own unique reloading mechanics that add to the whole realism and intensity of this entire experience. The variety of upgrades and paths to explore keeps each run fresh and exciting, with plenty of reasons to keep coming back for more even after facing defeat, because this game you're definitely gonna die a whole bunch of times. And let's talk about these guns. Funktronic Labs has nailed it with the physics-based rifles and pistols in this game, making each reload feel immersive and satisfying. It's definitely one of the game's standout features is its immersive reloading mechanics, which add a new level of realism and authenticity to the World War II era weaponry we get to use in this game. Whether you're chambering around in an M3 submachine gun or loading stripper clips into the K98 battle rifle, each reload feels satisfyingly tactile and responsive. Sticking to a single class in the Light Brigade might seem like a smart move at first, especially if you're aiming to rack up in the ranks of that particular class and unlock some of the permanent upgrades you get to each of these classes, but you might want to be able to dive a little deeper into the game if you check out some of the other classes as you unlock them. You're going to find yourself tempted to switch things up every once in a while, especially after a couple of bad runs, and they definitely give you the option here with all the different classes you can then join in. And the nice part is they're all different arsenal of World War II era weaponry that we get to choose from in each of these classes. We get semi-automatic rifles all the way to dually Colt 1911s. I mean, this game has it all, especially in the gun department, and when the mechanics of the gunplay actually come into play in the game, you really notice the amount of work and detail put in here. Navigating through the game's levels is a fairly linear experience, but it is engaging and exciting the entire time. I found each bit of kind of different world or level that you go through has a bit of a different design to it, which I really did like. The first one's kind of like a murky woods, then we get into an icy mountain area, and then it just kind of goes on from there. And that's really what I enjoyed about the game, is that they put enough detail into it that you enjoy the environment you're in, but they don't have to pour a ton of detail in here, because honestly I'm not really focusing on the environment as much as just trying to be able to survive some of these runs. It does get difficult. There are some definite enemy types out there that make this game a lot more challenging than you maybe necessarily expect, but it's rewarding all the way through, whether you're opening up different crates during the maps or you're breaking pots to find upgrades and things like that. You can put charms on your gun that allow you to do extra kind of different types of power-up shots and things like that, which I found to be a really cool, neat mechanic that you don't necessarily see in every VR game, especially a VR shooter. So I was really happy to see the amount of detail kind of put into just the gunplay and every little part of this adventure as you go through. Like I said, you kind of forget about the story a little bit as you start getting into these runs, and it kind of reconnects as you finally get through your first run of this game. But that's the best part. We've got so many classes to choose from and so many different levels to jump into that once you kind of finish it, if you're only doing it on one class, jump in and try another class, because let me tell you, it's like playing a whole new game. And every map and area that you go into, you're meeting new enemies and new obstacles to overcome. And the challenge of this game becomes so rewarding in the end when you finally do finish that first run. It's amazing. You can dump a pile of hours into this game. However, the Light Brigade isn't without its flaws. Unfortunately, sometimes I found the inventory holster that your player wears at times, even though you can adjust it in the in-game menus, I just found it to be a little cumbersome to use at times. I felt like it was tough to reach down and grab the ammo to load in my gun, or just grab ammo and load it into my holster. It was just something I had to get used to through my playthrough, but fumbling with that holster in the middle of an intense firefight isn't necessarily something I was hoping for. So it's definitely something you have to work through and kind of get used to being able to grab from that. Like I said, they give you a lot of options for adjusting that, so you might find kind of a sweet spot that works for you. I just found it to be a little bit difficult, but again, that's probably just more me than in-game issues altogether, but it was a mechanic I did notice to be somewhat cumbersome. And then the other thing I may have just a slight complaint on is just there's not a whole lot of detail in these environments. Like I said, they do differ up, and there is some differences between these environments, and I do enjoy that, but there just isn't a whole lot of detail in the environment. So again, this game is really focused on the gun mechanics and kind of the gameplay as you go through, and just being able to get through these runs, so you don't have to worry about the environment as much. But again, if I have to pick a few things out, just the lack of quality and detail in the environment is something I did notice. Despite these drawbacks, the Light Brigade offers a compelling and immersive VR experience that you will keep coming back for, I can promise you that. With its diverse gameplay styles, engaging gunplay, and challenging enemy encounters, it's easy to see why I wanted to give Light Brigade a solid 8.5 out of 10, so make sure you grab your weapons, gear up, and prepare to join the fight against the demonic forces threatening the world.